Good morning and welcome to the July CASI quarterly training. I'm Deidre Walsh, the director for the Office of Charter Schools for San Diego Unified School District. I'm going to give a second for folks to continue joining the training before we get started. So we'll give it just a minute for that. Okay. And before we get started today, if you all could please take a moment to change your name so that it includes your name and the district or county that you're representing. If you could take another moment to do that for us so we know who's here. And we also have a link to today's slide deck in the chat so everyone can access that as we're going through. Okay. So I think we'll go ahead and get started. So thank you for joining us for today's quarterly training. This is a CASI training. Our next slide is about CASI. So CASI is the Charter School Support Initiative. It's a collaboration between the California Department of Education's Charter Schools Division and 3 LEAs, Los Angeles County Office of Ed, San Diego Unified School District, and Santa Clara County Office of Ed. And it is to support professional development and networking opportunities for charter school authorizers. The work is funded through the Public Charter Schools Grant Program, authorized under ESEA, Title IV, Part C of Elementary and Secondary Education Act. The California Charter Authorizing Professionals, also known as CCAP, support the CASI work with us as well. Today's offerings, or not today's offerings, CASI offerings. So part of the work that CASI does involves quarterly trainings like today, monthly charter chats, one-on-one technical support, on-site trainings, a mentoring program, which we'll talk about later in this presentation, charter school authorizing and oversight 101 conference presentations. And the focus of today's quarterly training is on authorizer annual site visits, setting up for success with practical tools, tips, and strategies. And the usual caveat, the information contained in this presentation is provided as a reference only. Charter schools and chartering authorities are encouraged to review the laws and regulations and consult with their own legal counsel regarding the application to their specific situations. On today's agenda, we will have a welcome and introductions, a review of legal requirements for site visits, discussion of purpose and approach to site visits, planning and scheduling site visits, what to review at site visits, and your site visit report or follow-ups. And I'm going to pass it off to Tiffany DeGraffenreid, also with San Diego Unified School District, to start the next portion of this training.
Just a few housekeeping things too. We just want to remind you to keep yourself muted. You may put questions into the chat, and there will be Q&A at the end, of course, and we'll ask for questions as we go as well. And then this session is recorded. We will go into a couple breakout rooms, and the breakout rooms are not recorded. So we would like to know who we have here today. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll conduct a couple polls that we're asking you to participate in so we have an idea of who's joining us. If we could get those polls started. Everyone see those? Yep, we got first participant. Yay. Okay. So it says, how many charter schools do you authorize? We have a 1 to 2 category, 3 to 5, 6 to 8, 9 to 12, 13 to 15, and 15 plus. So far, we have about 35 answers here. I'll wait until we get a little bit closer to 50. Looks like most organizations are around 3 to 5. All right, let's go ahead and go on to the next question here. Are we able to go to the next question? The next poll?
It's on the next question, yeah.
Oh, doesn't show that on mine.
Can you see it
Okay.
on your side now, Tiffany?
I can see it. I had just had to open it. How long have you been an authorizer? I just started this month. Ooh, we have 3 people. 6 months to 1 year, 18 months to 2 years. We have quite a few that are in the newer range. 3 to 5, 6 to 8, and then 10 plus years. And then we have a handful of folks that have a position other than an authorizer. Thank you all so much for voting. It's very helpful for us to let us know who is in the room. And just a few more minutes. Okay, great. You want to go ahead and move on to the next one? Okay, and then where do you work? District, county office, or other? I know we have a handful of non-authorizers here today. So let's see. We have the county beating out the districts here. It's neck and neck. Okay, a couple more seconds. Let's share the results. I didn't realize that you weren't seeing the results before. I'm not seeing the same thing that you are, I think. You're able to see that one. And then our last question. Number of staff that support charter oversight. Less than 1 FTE, between 1 and 2, between 3 and 4, between 5 and 6, between 7 and 8, or we have enough for a baseball team. So we have a few baseball teams, a couple there. Mostly in the 1 to 2 range so far. Give a couple more seconds for people to answer. Share out the results in just a couple more seconds here. 77% of you have voted on this one. That's great. I'm gonna go ahead and share that out. So most of you have less than 4 people in your offices. So we'll stop sharing. Okay. So, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. Before I get into introductions, what the new faces of CASI looks like for this year, I did want to let you know that we are required to read every single word on every single slide. So, sit back, relax. Let me read to you the epic, dare I say, legendary story of charter authorizer site visits. So, welcome and introductions. Santa Clara County Office of Education is here today, Los Angeles County Office of Education, and San Diego Unified School District. We'll go ahead and pass this to Michelle, and she will introduce Santa Clara County.
Hi, I am Dr. Michelle Johnson. I am the director of the Santa Clara County Office of Education Charter Schools Department, and I am supported with our fiscal administrator, Shalu Sharma. And you can see a map of Santa Clara County that has 31 school districts. We have, next slide, please. So we authorize 20 Santa Clara County Board of Education authorized charter schools with 31 districts and 57 total charter schools. Of the 20 charter schools that we have, 2 are non-classroom based. 1 is a dashboard alternative school. 5 have charter management organizations. 2 have collective bargaining agreements. 1 is a small school or less than 200 students or less. 8 are in the 500 plus students. Our largest is 997. We have 8 on district-owned facilities, and 6 of our charters are county-wide charter schools. Next slide. I'll turn it over to Indra and Lako.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Indra Ciccarelli. I am the director of the Charter School Office for Los Angeles County Office of Education, or LACO. And as you can see on the slide, I have a fairly large team to support me. Rosia Lara, director in the office as well. Daryl Brown, coordinator 3. Renee Cardona, coordinator 3. Angela Fernandez, coordinator 3. Jeff Hartman, coordinator 3. Jean Law, coordinator 3. Duncan McCulloch, coordinator 3. Shelley Nye, coordinator 3. Sal Macias, our admin assistant. Sheila Rudolph, our principal office technician. And Marta Tremblay, our data processing assistant. And this doesn't even count. We also have a dedicated fiscal team as well as other LACO experts that help support the work we do. And our portfolio, the LACO portfolio, includes 23 authorized charter schools directly authorized by our board. Within the county, we have 79 districts with a total of 356 total charter schools in the county. Of our authorized charter schools, 1 is non-classroom based, 1 is DAS or Dashboard Alternative School Status School. We have 10 that are CMOs, 3 with collective bargaining agreements, 6 that are 200 or fewer students, with the smallest one being 17, 4 with 500 plus students, with the largest one at 720, 10 on district-owned facilities, and 1 countywide.
And this is San Diego Unified School District Office of Charter Schools staff. There are 6 full-time. Deidre Walsh is here with us today. She's a director in the office. I'm Tiffany DeGraffenreid. I'm the manager. We also have Richard Faraci, program manager, Joanne Lynn Henning, program manager. And then we have our senior financial accountants, Teresa Goody and Nadine Career. And then you'll also see that we have a map that shows San Diego Unified School District, where the charter schools are placed in relation to where district schools are. We also are in collaboration with the CDE, and Craig is here to support our efforts this morning as well. Here is a graphic of San Diego Unified School District charter portfolio. We have just under 19,000 students within 39 charter schools, 4 non-classroom based schools, which are all very different, 3 DAS schools, 5 CMOs, 11 with collective bargaining agreements, 7 that are 200 or fewer students, 4 that are 1,000 or more students, and 22 on district-owned facilities. So as you can see, between the two counties and the district, we have a wide range of schools that we authorize and work with. So we have a plethora of experience between everyone in our offices and all of the schools that we're able to interact with and oversee. Okay, so the reason that we're all here, site visit legal requirements, the why we do what we do. The next slide is going to talk about Education Code Section 47604.32. Each chartering authority, in addition to any other duties imposed by this part, shall do all of the following with respect to each charter school under its authority. So, identify at least one staff member as a contact person for the charter school. So hopefully everyone here who authorizes charter schools has identified someone in their office that the charter schools that they authorize can get in contact with. Next, number 2 is why we're all here today, to learn about visiting each charter school at least annually and what that might entail. 3 is to ensure that each charter school under its authority complies with all reports required, including the LCAP and annual update to LCAP. 4 is monitor the fiscal condition of each charter school under its authority. For us, both 3 and 4 are part of the annual site visit as well. We review documents and fiscal condition as part of the site visit. And then number 5 is just a housekeeping, provide timely notification to the CDE when charter renewal is granted or denied, charter is revoked, or the school ceases operations. So I think this is pretty cut and dry, but I just want to pause for a second and see if there is any questions or there's anything in the chat at this point about the ed code or legality of our purpose. Joanne, do you see anything?
Nope, nothing in the chat.
Okay, great. Moving forward, purpose and approaches to annual site visits. Now, all of us are different sizes, as we realized when we looked at the Zoom polls this morning. Some of us are very small, 1 or 2 charter schools with less than 1 FTE just started this month, and some of us have baseball teams as staff. So we come from a lot of different areas and have different approaches to how we will do site visits based on our capacity. But we want to keep that education code in mind. So the purpose of site visits is compliance with that ed code 4604. 0.23 or 0.32 that we just reviewed. This protects the authorizer from liability. There's some additional information in Ed Code section 47604D. And then also to ensure that the school is compliant with its charter and the law, of course. We want to ensure that there's a safe learning environment for students, not only for students, but for staff and any other educational partners that come onto the campus. And then additionally, develop a relationship with the charter school so that their renewals are easier, or any hardships that come up in the future, you have developed a relationship and you're able to work through those together. And lastly, you can do some goal and priority setting while you're there at the site visits. Even though there's not a lot in ed code, protecting the school district or the county from liability and ensuring that schools are safe is our priority. So San Diego Unified's approach to site visits is multi-faceted. But first and foremost, it's not an audit. It's not a gotcha visit or a gotcha moment. And we reiterate that time and again, because a lot of times we show up to visits and the parents are afraid to meet with us, and they're worried that it's an audit and they're going to say the wrong thing and it's going to shut the school down. So we really like to affirm with parents and teachers and the administrators, especially the administrators, that this is not an audit. This is an oversight visit, that we are coming to observe and ensure that the school is following its charter petition and that it's in compliance with the law. So it's not a gotcha. They are scheduled. The school knows that we're coming. They know what the expectations are. We have set up the schedule in advance, and they know what to expect. We are reviewing for compliance with the charter, operations agreement, and state and federal laws. I'm going to take just 1 minute to talk about this term operations agreement, because many of you use an MOU, a memorandum of understanding. And I know this is a thing that is going to be controversial, but San Diego Unified doesn't use an MOU. We use an operations agreement, which is very similar, but has probably less than what many of your MOUs have in it. And it's very specific to each of our charter schools. So we're looking for compliance with the charter, compliance with the operations agreement, and compliance with state and federal laws when we come to do site visits. This is also for us a checkpoint, or sometimes we like to explain it to schools and parents and families as a progress report and an opportunity to address any areas of concern prior to the charter renewal. So each of our site visits is a progress report towards that final report card, which would be the charter renewal. That way they are well aware of any of the concerns that we have leading up to their charter renewal. And finally, we explain this to every group that we meet with during the site visit so that we're transparent and that everyone is on the same page. They know what we're looking for, they know why we're there, and they know the purpose of the site visit. So I'm going to give a few different scenarios, reviewing for compliance and refer appropriate entity for technical assistance. So basically, when we're looking into compliance, we're not there to fix anything for the charter school. We expect them to fix that for themselves, or we help direct them to who might be able to help them fix that particular issue or give them technical assistance. For instance, a special education example is during the site visit, district reviews an individualized education plan, IEP plans, while we're there. So files, we review files and find several are not signed or they're missing notes. So the district would raise this concern and note it in the site visit report and advise charter school to reach out to the special education local area plan or local plan area, so that they're SELPA for technical assistance. So if we noticed anything like this in the files, we would not only let the administration know, we would have a conversation with it about them. There may be something specific about why there are not notes in the files. They might keep notes separately, so they would show us where their notes are separately. These might be interns and they didn't realize that they had to have notes. And so sometimes these are things that administrators are not aware of that are happening. If it's a bigger issue, then we would work with the SELPA and the school specifically. We would collaborate with both of those. Next would be policies that would not be in compliance. We would definitely point those out to the administration and also to the board. We do meet with representatives from the board, and that would come back to them. So we would let them know that those policies are not in compliance. So during site visit, district finds that the comprehensive school safety plan, the suicide prevention policy, and the uniform complaint policy are missing key components or are not updated. The district would advise the board to update policies as soon as possible and provide the CDE as a resource for policy templates. These specific templates are easily available on the CDE website, and we point schools there very often to check out those templates and use those at their discretion. So very often we do that. The next example is English learner program example. During a site visit, it's observed that designated English language development is not being provided to students. District would raise concern and note site visit report. District would advise charter school to reach out to county for technical assistance in development of English learner program. This is a common thing that comes up for us during site visits. Many times schools have a difficult time understanding the difference between integrated and designated EL instruction, and we're looking for that to happen in charter schools, both of those. We're looking for schools to have ELAC, reclassification policies, EL master plans, if their population requires that. We are fortunate to have a county office that has a robust offering of EL support. And so if we see that there is a concern or the school definitely needs some technical assistance, then we go ahead and direct them to the county to get some technical assistance in EL. We add that to the site visit report that we're concerned about it, and we are sure to follow up with it the next year to ensure that that instruction is happening for students. Okay, Michelle, did you want to talk about Santa Clara's approach to site visits?
Absolutely. Thanks, Tiffany. So Santa Clara County Office of Education, we have a fairly similar approach and as San Diego Unified. So we do gather and document evidence about the success of the school's educational programs, the efficacy of the school's operations and governance, and we review the school's fiscal viability. So we do gather evidence, and it is used during the site visit process, is ultimately used to make a renewal determination or inform other authorizing actions pertaining to the school. And our site visit is not intended to directly assist schools in making decisions about how to improve academic programs or operations. One of the things that is amazing about the way our program is set up is that we have a charter schools department office that handles the compliance, and we do point out different ideas because there's a very fine line between support and compliance. And so we try to help our charter schools help themselves by saying, hey, we see things that need to be addressed, but we also then provide direction saying, you know, we're not going to fix it for you. We want you to be able to be trained so that you can fix things yourself. And so we will guide them to our other departments at Santa Clara County Office of Education. We have an amazing curriculum and instruction team. We have amazing PBIS. We have amazing MTSS. You name it, if you need information, we have it here at our county office, and we have a very robust website that is also has tons of documentation if you're looking for information. And so we, instead of trying to be the experts ourselves, we tap on our fellow compadres here at the county office and let them be the experts. So, but overall, we do essentially the same things. We go in and look at files. We meet with all of our educational partners. And it's, as Tiffany said, it is not a gotcha. We are not here to try and point out things. That's not what we're here to do. We are here to help our charter schools do the best things for kids. And so I will now turn it over to Indra and Leko. Or he can turn it over to Jeff.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll do so the LACO approach to site visits. We really see ourselves as thought partners in educational excellence. First and foremost, it's contextual. It's one piece of a larger context that includes a review of every charter school board meeting, academic data, and over 100 document submissions that we're collecting throughout the year. It is a compliance baseline, so we're checking their compliance with law, the charter petition, and our board policy and their board policy as really the minimum standard. It is a collaborative partnership. Again, we serve as thought partners. We provide an outside perspective, respecting the school's autonomy while offering support and expertise. I think a lot of times we use a sort of a Socratic method of really asking questions and trying to get our charter schools to think through certain things. Next slide. So again, Socratic approach, through thoughtful questioning and dialogue, we help schools discover their own solutions and build capacity for continuous improvement. We offer resource and support. We provide best practice, resources, and guidance to help schools achieve their mission and serve students effectively. And really, it's growth oriented. Our focus is on helping schools set meaningful goals, track progress, and celebrate achievements while identifying areas for growth. And I think that sums it up where, like I said, we do probably provide a little bit more direct support than I think some other authorizers. But you know, there's always that fine line, obviously, of autonomy, and we really do want to make sure that the schools are building their own capacity and that we are not crossing that line.
Great. So thank you, Tiffany, Michelle, and Indra for that information. Next up is our first breakout room. But before we go into the breakout room, are there any questions about the process or approach that's been shared so far? And Joanne, are you seeing anything?
I do not see any questions right now.
Okay. Okay, then we can move into our first breakout room. We'll be in the breakout rooms for about 10 to 12 minutes. The breakout rooms are, for this breakout, are assigned by region. We also have a room for our non-authorizer participants. I'd like to thank the facilitators of this breakout room. For the different rooms, we have Michelle Johnson, Tiffany DeGraffenreid, Jeff Hartman from Los Angeles County Office of Ed, Tom Hutton from CCAP, and Rick Ferracci from San Diego Unified. The breakout rooms by region are North, Central, and South. And the discussion topics for the breakout room are: what is your current approach or process to site visits? And what are your next steps when you find concerns or areas of opportunity? Of course, we can discuss broader issues as well, but we thought those would be good topics to start with for our first breakout. The breakout rooms will use Zoom whiteboards, and we'll have a share out from each room, a quick share out from each room when we come back to the larger group. Okay, so we'll see each other in breakout rooms. Hi, everyone, and welcome back from the breakout rooms. We're going to have a quick share out from the rooms. I will attempt to start it by sharing the whiteboard. Cross your fingers, everyone. Technology isn't my thing. Let's see. Well, so far I have a swirling circle. Let's see. It might be this one. Are we? Yes, it worked. Okay, so this was our whiteboard from the session. We just kind of put the topics there and had a couple of folks comment in there. We did have a discussion primarily about at the site visit how you handle student and staff files where there might be some questions as to authorizer access and you know, if there's ever concerns about as an authorizer you having access to a school's student or staff files. So we talked about how we have accommodated when schools are uncomfortable with just giving us printed copies or uploading the file into Epicenter for us, that we have just gone to the school and sat with the school to go through the file with them. So that they are comfortable that we're just looking at it for the compliance pieces that we had told them that we would be looking for. So that's the accommodation that we use to ensure that we can get access to the student and staff files that we're wanting to review as part of compliance. And then I did clarify that for student files, really it's 504 and special ed folders that we're looking at. We're not looking at the CUME folders. We focus primarily on the SPED and 504 files. Okay, so next I will stop using this whiteboard maybe. Thank you, whoever did that. Thanks. And we'll move on to the next breakout room. If anyone would like to volunteer to share from the room, or I can just pick someone. Oh, we've got one up. Okay.
I am so happy it worked. All right, so in the Northern Breakout Room, we also talked about the differences between an annual site visit and a renewal site visit and what things we might be doing differently. We also talked about that we might have a fall pop-in, and then our annual visit is actually in the springtime. But I also mentioned that Alameda County has an amazing document called their site visit protocol. And in fact, we looked at it, liked it so much that we went through and created our own. So please go check out some of the tools. In fact, you'll hear about ours in a little bit later. But we do look at all those different things, like the file visits, the student, and unlike San Diego, we actually do go look at the CUMES. And we also look at the special ed folders. So there you go. Tiffany, did I miss anything?
No, you did great.
All right.
Michelle, what did you say Alameda had? What was it, a checklist?
They actually have a site visit protocol, and you'll be able to get our copy and the resources. So, but we mirrored ours off of Alameda's. So I wanted to give the shout out to Alameda. So thank you, Alameda, for doing all the hard work first.
Okay. And then I think we have Jeff had the Southern region and Tom and Rick had the non-authorizer groups. If either of you would like to.
I'll go ahead and go. I didn't do the whiteboard. I have this sticky note if you can see that. But we had a good discussion. We shared the different approaches from the different authorizers, talked about what we could handle and how many visits we did. The main topic was discussing ways of transferring files back and forth and how to handle confidential private files. We included attorney-client privilege in order to kind of keep that safe. But basically, respecting privacy rights and either not transferring files that hold confidential information, or visiting the site and only seeing the confidential files while we're at the site, so we don't have to worry about privacy concerns.
Thank you. And Tom or Rick?
So we had an interesting, our group had both consultants to authorizers and back office providers for schools. So we translated the question for the non-authorizing side into what has been your experience. Do you help your schools when you're with site visits and a lot of experience were similar to what we heard so far, that there's not gotchas. People know what's happening in advance. Sometimes there's a request for some documentation in advance of the thing. Um, so CCAP helps some districts do their site visits, and our protocol, we have a protocol too. It's not in the resources folder, but apparently there's a link to the last session we did that involved site visits, and you can find it there. And then Douglas Pelton is another consultant to authorizers, and he was sharing, and we've found this with some of our smaller districts that we help too, that sometimes it's a hybrid team where we and people from the district are going into we help organize it, but we're bringing people in from the district too because they're multitasking with 15 million things. And I think I gather that's a similar approach that Douglas and his firm takes. And then for our non-authorizer, for our school side people, some of our consultants and back office people do help their schools with the site visits, particularly with requests to requests for information and documentation and financial things and records. They can help with that on the back end. And they too said that in their experience with authorizers, which includes San Diego Unified, that you know, they know what's coming in advance, so there aren't a lot of gotchas, and they appreciate that.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Okay. So now we're going to turn it back over to Tiffany to discuss the planning and scheduling of site visits.
So now we get into the real nitty gritty. For our office, the actual scheduling of site visits is somewhat of a flurry, or it has been in previous years. Over the last 5 years, there has been quite an evolution. We have evolved since COVID. I have been on both ends of the authorizing spectrum. I was a charter teacher and administrator, and then moved over as an authorizer. So, as an administrator, when San Diego Unified came to do our oversight visits, we'd have binders and binders of the things that they asked for, policies and procedures and whatever they wanted in these gigantic binders. And they'd sit there all day and review things and ask questions and take notes and talk to people. And I'm happy to say we are past the binder phase. We have evolved from that. We moved from binders to Dropbox to Google Drive, and we have come to rest at Epicenter currently. So our office uses Epicenter to collect documents and request documents and provide feedback. I know that there are other platforms and other ways to do it, and I don't know how long we'll be with Epicenter, but we are in the evolutionary process of how to make site visits as streamlined as possible. So we start our site visit process for the school year in the spring of the preceding year. So for this school year, 25-26, we scheduled site visits last year. So in April and May, we sent out a Calendly to all of our charter leaders asking which dates they wanted their site visits to be on. Now, this isn't just an open calendar. You can pick any days. First, what we do is we run this calendar through all of our staff members. It's called a blackout calendar to determine if anyone is on vacation, if there are any important board meetings that everyone needs to be at, if there's conferences that we feel like a lot of administrators will be at. We know that there is a big block of time for CASP testing that we don't really want to be on site and disrupt that testing. So we do a lot of blackout dates that we will not be visiting charter schools during. So after we get that blackout calendar all set, we set the dates in Calendly that are available for site visits, and then we allow schools to pick the dates that they would like us to come out and visit. Now, there are some exceptions for schools that we're tracking because of fiscal concerns or governance concerns. We do pick those dates for them and let them know when we will be there or if we plan to spend extended time with them. At that time during the spring, we meet with all of our charter schools at a annual update. So we let them know what they can expect at the site visit. So that's any new updates for legislation that we might have to add to the document list. And we let them know that there might be changes also in the fall, because during the summer, some legislative changes might happen and we might have to add additional things to the list of what we will be reviewing when we come for the oversight visit. The next piece in July and September is document collection, the annual document collection, such as LCAP, which is due for everyone July 1st. Board member calendar for the upcoming year, instructional minutes, updated organizational chart, anything that gets the beginning of the school year going, we ask for that in July so that we can know what their instructional minutes are, what their calendar looks like. It helps to set us up for success as well as keeps communication open between our two entities. Epicenter notifications for us goes out for site visits documents that are requested, so we don't have to handle that anymore. That happens in advance, so they know when to send documents or when to upload documents into Epicenter. 90 days prior to the site visit, they know what documents we are requesting. We also have the list of documents that will be requested posted up on our website. You're welcome to check that out as well. That will be in the reference link at the end of the presentation so you can see what we request from our charter schools. 2 weeks prior to the visit, the district staff begin reviewing documents, making notes on any items for discussion that we want to discuss during the site visits. And then we return any items that are incorrect or need additional information or clarification of any documents. And we'll review documents with school leadership when we get on site, and we will review anything that has to do with policy changes or procedural changes with board members as well, because we do meet with board members when we're on site. We do conduct interviews and classroom observations as well the day of the site visit and share any findings that we had via the documents or any of our observations. We talked a little bit in our different breakout rooms about confidentiality of records. And so we don't request records, personnel records or IEP records through Epicenter. We do that file review on site. So we review random IEP files and random personnel files on site. So this is a sample of what a day might look like at a site visit for San Diego Unified. This is a sample site visit schedule. This is just a sample, so it depends on the school and what their calendar looks like, what their start time is, when they're able to have parents come in. We arrive at 9 o'clock or before or after. Every interview with educational partner group is usually about 30 minutes. We interview parents. We're hoping to meet with someone that is an ELAC representative or part of the SSC group or the ELAC or the LCAP parent group. We do the campus observation, go into classrooms, and make sure that there is EL designated instruction happening during the master calendar time that's indicated. We meet with students. We interview up to 3 teachers, including gen ed, education specialist, and an ELD teacher. Depending on the size of the school, we also separately interview a director of special education or whomever is in charge of special education, and then the director of ELD or whoever is in charge of ELD at the school. We would also then interview up to 4 administrators responsible for academics, student services, finance, and then governance and operations, which usually includes a back office provider representative as well. And that meeting is longer, usually about 90 minutes. If it's a larger school, I'm sorry, it's usually about 60 minutes. If it's a larger school, we would extend that to 90 minutes. And then we conclude the day meeting with board member representatives. Usually it's 1 or 2, but it depends on the size of the board. We want to ensure that we're not hitting a quorum or a Brown Act violation by meeting with too many of the board members. So these are just samples of site visit documents that we ask for prior to arriving on site. So this is 2 weeks prior. We're asking for all of these things and reviewing them before we get there. Finance are things like bank statements, bank reconciliation, check register, general ledger, credit card statements, fiscal control policies, reimbursement procedures, and more. Educational program, the EL master plan or ELD course descriptions, teaching assignment list, master schedule, assessment calendar, and more. Remember, guys, I got to read every single word on my slides. Government and board policies are the charter board bylaws. We use these very frequently. Many boards do not follow their bylaws and do not know what's in them. So it's really important that you're familiar with them and you point them out to boards when they're confused about how to elect or whom they are able to elect to their board or appoint. Board agendas and minutes, suspension, expulsion policy, uniform complaint procedures, that UCP, homeless education policy, independent study policy, and more. Operations, that'd be enrollment policies and forms, lottery policies and forms, disenrollment list, wait list, comprehensive school safety plan, and more. Additionally, considerations for document review. Obviously, it would be very difficult for me to review hundreds of documents by myself. So we split this up differently depending on the school, depending on the subject. What things do we need to make sure to review prior to the site visits? What will we review on site? So those are some things that you might want to think about. Are all of these documents things that you need to review for your schools? When do you want to collect documents? Do you want to do an annual submission and then a submission separate for your site visit? Are you going to focus on certain things every year? Will this be a special education year? Will this be an ELD year? Is this the year that you ensure that all teachers are credentialed properly and properly placed? And then who on your staff reviews documents and when? How is that divided? So in our staff, we each kind of have a specialty. Rick comes from a finance background, so he does a lot of the finance review and items that have to do with finance. I come from an independent study background. I do a lot of the independent study review. Joanne was formerly a principal. She does a lot of and worked a lot with EL students. She does the EL review. So, we divide things in that way. You might divide by school or region or, so many other ways. So. And then how will you share feedback in areas of concern? And I know in speaking to other authorizers, this varies widely. We share orally when we are there at the site visit. We welcome emails to clarify things, and we will have a dialogue with the administration about what concerns that we have. And then we put all of our areas of concern in the site visit report at the end of the school year if those concerns have not been addressed by the time we write the site visit report. And then having a system to track and follow up on areas of concern is important as well. We mark schools to follow up for the following year of all of the concerns that we had in the previous site visit to ensure that those have been updated for the current year. And Michelle, I'll hand it over to you.
So I will say that we do a lot of things very similar to San Diego Unified. We start scheduling our site visits in October, November for the spring. the reason why we're doing it then is because we will have already held our renewal visits so we're not doing 2 visits for our schools that are up for renewal. They're getting their whenever they've submitted their petition. We usually schedule our renewal, quote unquote, annual visit the day or 2 after the public hearing, so that we can incorporate those questions that come from the board during the public hearing. But those schools do not get another visit during that school year. That becomes their annual visit for that year. The remainder of our schools, we go through the Calendly to use the site visits as well. We do the blackout days and allow first come, first serve to pick. And then July through April, even this does look a little out of whack, but we're collecting documents as soon as July 1st which would be the LCAP and the budget. And that goes all the way through April and the Form 700s. So we're collecting our documents throughout the whole school year. We do not use Epicenter. It's too expensive because we have too many schools. So we created our own version of Epicenter using Monday.com. And I want to give a shout out to Matt, who went through the process of creating these individual boards and allowing our charter schools to have guest access to upload their own documents, just like Epicenter does. So yay, Matt, he did a great job. So 2 weeks prior to the site visit, we actually come and we make sure that we check all of our documents in Monday.com. We do not ask for CUME files or IEPs to be uploaded for student protection. We do those file reviews on site. And so next slide will show our site visit day. So our visits vary based on whether or not they're annual or renewal. We only have board members come during our renewal visits. And we also make sure that we do not have a quorum and have a Brown Act violation. Our visits are both in person and virtual. And the reason why we do virtual is so that we can provide the translator if necessary. And so we go in the morning. We have here's our schedule of what it looks like. So we have our orientation meeting with school leaders, which includes special education, English language development, administration. And that runs about 60 minutes. And we have a set of questions. We've had our schools try to create a presentation for us, and we're like, no. We know what we're coming to ask you, so don't put together a presentation. And we've also gone through their LCAPs and their program, the program component of their petition, and figured out, here's the highlights of their document, and saying, what are some of the, this is what your petition says. What are we going to see that creates that evidence to prove that it happens as we're going through the classroom visits? So then we do classroom observations, which we have a minimum of 1 classroom per grade level at elementary, and 1 per grade level of each of the core courses at secondary level. So that runs between 60 to 90 minutes, depending on the enrollment and the schedule. We then do a student focus group representing a cross section of the student body. We've also learned don't go any younger than grade 3. We've had it happen where we've had kindergartners on the student panel, and they have literally taken over the entire meeting. And when you've only got 30 minutes, it's too hard. So we always try and make sure that we start with grade 3 and above, and we don't have more than 5 or 6 students to represent the school. We then go do file review. We do cumulative files, special education files, and personnel files. It also depends on whether or not all of those files are on site as to how long that file review might take. If the HR files are off campus because they're with the CMO, then we schedule a separate meeting to go and do those file reviews. And on our website, we have all, and here, I'll even put it into the chat so you can go and take a look. But on our website, we have all of the information that you would ever want to see or know about our site visit reviews, and we have every single one of our documents that we use. The way we have it on our website is all paper version. We have actually turned all of our forms into Google Forms so that we can use a handheld as we're going through and doing all the site visits. So our schools know exactly what we're coming to look for. They just see us on our phone inputting everything into Google. All right, so then after the file review, we then leave and go back to our office so that we can do our parent meeting, our teacher meeting, and those two partner interviews. If we are doing a renewal, then we add in the board members. Board member review is only about 30 minutes. Parent family focus group will be 60 minutes, and teacher focus group will also be 60 minutes. Then we have our charter schools team debrief, which is about 20 minutes, that allows us to do our pluses and deltas form so that we can give that verbal feedback at our exit meeting. And that's usually between 30 and 60 minutes, depending on the actual visit and how much information we need to share. We do have a annual report that we provide, a written report. So we do the verbal on the day of the meeting. We let our schools know if there's problems that we found, that we say we're going to give them 30 days to correct it, and we will come back and visit again if necessary. Then depending on what happens with those multiple visits, all of that will go into our final annual report that is given that we send to the school, to the charter school board president and all of their leadership. And that's Santa Clara's. I'll hand it off to Jeff.
So this is the LACO schedule. We visit our schools several times a year with several different staff members. We have an annual facilities visit that our facilities unit will come and do a facilities inspection once a year. We do 2 visits annually for the ed program and operations by our staff charter school office coordinators. We do a fall visit, which is informal. It's more about relationship building, setting goals and priorities, classroom walkthroughs, discussions with leadership. And then we do a spring visit, which is more formal with the document reviews, the classroom walkthroughs, focus groups if we feel that that's necessary. And then we also will, not with every school every year, but we also try to schedule board visits where a select number of our board members get a chance to visit the charter schools that they have authorized. And so we go with them and do similar informal visit where we walk through classrooms. But lots of visits. This is LA. Any excuse to get into the car and drive somewhere. We visit our schools several times. Next slide. Guiding questions that we use and we provide in general before the visit include: what does your benchmark data indicate for all students and the significant student groups? We may ask them something like, how do you plan to address gaps in performance for these groups? And what targeted strategies and interventions are you implementing? Maybe we'll ask, what will we see and or hear from both the teacher and students during classroom observations that demonstrates these strategies, practices, and action? We're basically trying to find out if what you see in person matches what they have on paper, either their charter petition or any of their document submissions. Are we able to see evidence of that in the classrooms? Next slide. Sample fall visit schedule. Remember, this is the informal one. We usually will come in the morning and do a compliance review, visitor procedures, signing in, LACO signage. We want to make sure that there's a sign on the wall that says we're the authorizer, so that when parents or community visit the school, they know who the authorizer is. Other posted notifications that we look for are, do they have their UCP policy? Do they have maybe their board agenda, minutes, something like in the main office when the public walks in? Then we'll do a meeting with school leadership where we review their measurable pupil outcomes from their charter petition, any action plans for missed MPOs that they may have done from the prior year. End of year follow-up, so things that we identified from the prior year. Professional development focus, find out what they're working on, what their professional development is. That's another thing that we can see in the classroom if they're working on a particular instructional strategy. Interventions that they use that we may see. We'll highlight any concerns that we have currently so that the instructional team knows these are things that we're worried about and we want to see evidence of progress in that area. Verified data review. So if they do NWEA or iReady and they've got their internal benchmarks that they've submitted to us, we'll go over it with them and say, hey, these are the subgroups that are struggling. What are your strategies for these data pieces that you've given us already? Then we'll do classroom visits. See the facilities, make sure everything is safe, but not the full facilities inspection because that's already being done by a different unit. We see instruction. We try to visit every classroom, and even not always, but even classes that the teacher's on their prep period, that period. We try to poke into every classroom for just a couple minutes to see what's going on, what's the culture of the school, does it align with the master schedule maybe that they've already provided us, and just get a sense of it. If we only visit a couple, we find that they cherry pick their best teachers and the best projects that are going on at that time. So we kind of want to see what's the real instructional situation that's going on at the school. But we're not spending a lot of time in each classroom to give like instructional feedback for the teacher. That's their job. We're basically seeing do the administrators do that work, and maybe we'll debrief with them about things that we see that are instructional. And then during the debrief, we share any concerns that may have popped up, any questions or specific topics that are specific to that school. Again, we kind of do things very specific to the school instead of kind of a one size fits all for all of our schools. We'll go over next steps, maybe follow up for what we still want to take care of with them. And then, next slide. The spring visit, some guiding questions that may be in the spring visit. And again, this is flexible, but we try to hit in the spring. We ask them maybe to share 2 or 3 key strategies that they've implemented during the year that support English language arts and math performance, along with any outcomes or progress that you've observed so far. So they do kind of a self-reflection. What will we see or hear from both the teacher and students during classroom observations that demonstrates these strategies, practices, and action? Again, just aligning their instructional or PD focus with what we're seeing in the classroom. And how have professional development areas of focus directly addressed the instructional needs to improve outcomes? If we've identified areas like English language learners or math or something as a data piece that they're struggling with, how has their professional development addressed those things? Next slide, please. So sample visit in the spring. We kind of go through the compliance review again, just the visitor procedures, maybe check in. Cumulative folders that maybe we'll go through, and we have samples. We ask for a new student, we ask for a returning student, an EL, a special education student, a 504. And so they provide us samples, we look through those, and then we spot check the rest of them to make sure that those aren't just the only ones that are good. Then again, we'll do a meeting with school leadership where we review things that data pieces that we have, action plans that they've submitted, things that we're concerned about with them, review interventions and PD implementation. How are things going now that this is in the spring? Since the fall visit, what has happened? We'll do the classroom visits. Again, we'll zip through the classrooms. We'll do focus group discussions with parents or students. Not every time, but if we have a concern, usually we'll do a focus group. And so we don't do that unless we feel that there's something that we are lacking, maybe from their written submissions or things that we've seen have come up with questions. There seems to be a misalignment maybe somewhere. We'll want to see if we can talk to individuals to get the real story. Then do the visit debrief, briefly on the classrooms, what we saw, maybe allow the administrative team an opportunity to share what they saw, to see if they're seeing the same things that you saw, instead of just giving them, hey, I see that all the teachers are up in the front doing direct instruction. Is that the intent? Let's see if they will come up with an evaluation on how their teachers did and see if they're seeing those same things. We'll do a data review, the dashboard, verified data, the benchmarks. We want to give them some kind of sense of how they're progressing towards renewal, and the site visits is part of that, and our end of year report is part of that. And then we'll follow up with things that we didn't get that we wanted, or questions that arose as a separate follow-up. And next slide. So we try to do an email follow-up, but these are some things that we would bring up at a follow-up. Will you do a written report, or this is some things that for authorizers to consider. Will you do a written report or some other type of report? Who's the audience for the report? And so I've heard some people talk to the board members of the school. We do that in kind of our end of year report. Usually with the site visit, we're doing it as an email, but you do want to have some kind of a follow-up for your visit so that you can document that you were there and that some things that you saw. Will reports be shared with your board? Will it be part of the public record? If you have particular areas of concern, it may be something that you're going to want to share with your board, who is the oversight board of that charter school. And next one. Who else will it be shared with? So do you find that the information that you came up with at the site visit should be shared with someone else? And so you'll have to determine whether or not that, like maybe you're sharing with the SELPA, or maybe another unit within your organization that may need to follow up with them in a particular area. Will reports use a rubric? If so, how will rubric created? This might be something you'll want to talk with your team about and determine if you want to like score them on their visit. We don't do that, but there are organizations that do. And then how will you follow up on any findings? You do want to make sure that if you have a concern and it's not like a formal letter of written concern, you have a way of tracking that concern has been addressed. So if you email it, sometimes you'll put it into a calendar for later so that it pops up as a reminder that have you received that document that you asked for, or have they taken steps towards that question that you had? And lastly, will schools have an opportunity to respond to site visit report? And so in what way would the school respond to your findings from the visit? And that'll take form. Sometimes the school will send an email, sometimes they'll schedule a meeting. But these are things that you can kind of think about in terms of how you want to structure your visit and what that interaction looks like. We try to make sure that the site visits are a little bit informal so that the affective filter goes down and we can just kind of build that relationship with the schools. And then we do a lot of our document review separately in the office. And that's it.
Thank you, Jeff, for sharing that. I just wanted to share, and Michelle, you're also welcome to share during this section for site visit reports, because there is a lot of variety. For San Diego, our process, We do an annual site visit report for each charter school. The report addresses the areas of academics, finances, governance, and operations. It notes areas that the school is in compliance with, as well as areas that are out of compliance and need addressing. So our process is primarily borderline exclusively focused on compliance, whether a school is in or not in compliance. So that's the view or the lens that our site visit reports take. We also include a section where the school can provide a response to the report. There's a couple of different ways that it comes in. We want a response if we've made a mistake in the report. We would want to know that right away so that we can correct it. And then there's also just a section in the report where a school can just give a complete response to anything they want to within the report or any type of follow-up. We do not use a rubric for our reports. They are narrative style and individualized for each charter school. We send a draft version of the report to the charter leader for review. And many of those schools take the reports to their boards for review prior to providing us a response to the report. And then once we've received the school's response and incorporated it into the report, we send a finalized version back to the school leader. Follow-up varies depending on the finding that we've made for the report. Some items we request that the school address it in a very timely manner. Tiffany mentioned some of the documents and items that we review earlier in the presentation. So if a school is missing one of those required policies, we're going to ask that it be adopted as soon as possible and provided to us. Other items we will follow up at the next site visit. So for instance, if they did not review and approve their comprehensive school safety plan by the specified date, we would say for next year, you're required to have that in compliance and do it within the required timeline. So just to give you a sense of how things can be done a little bit differently between authorizers, there's just a lot of variety. So Michelle, you're welcome to add anything you'd like to on this, or I can pass it to Tiffany for information on our next breakout.
Actually, I would like to add, so we do have our written reports that we do annually, and we utilize our annual reports as information for our renewals. So we'll do I'll go back through every single one of our annual reports and created a chart that basically says, here are the things that we were having issues with and how many times have we had issues with them over the last 5 years or during the charter term, and make that as part of our findings in our petition review and staff annual and our renewal finding of facts. With regards to our report to our charter board, we've created an annual data book. We've shared this before that has all the information about our charter schools. And this goes as our report to our board. They like having this information. But as for our annual report, site visit reports, those go to the charter school board, and are they part of the public record? Well, because they are a public document that has been shared with that school, they are available upon request. But we don't go and we share them with our superintendent, but we don't always share them with our board unless it is unless there's major problems that our board needs to be aware of. We do not use a rubric. And as I said before, we have our verbal findings and we'll do a 30-day follow-up. And then whatever information, if depending on whether or not those things have been corrected, those go into our annual visit reports. And our schools do notify us if there's a problem with our report, but we do not give them the opportunity to preview it before we submit it. So there you go.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Michelle and Jeff. So we will have an opportunity to go into one more breakout session before the end of the training. Our last breakout session is based on topics of interest, so you're able to self-select for this one. The first one is site visits with limited staffing. I know that some of your staffing ratios have changed in the last couple years, so you may need to adjust for limited staffing. We have Deidre, I believe, that is facilitating that one, and she has worked in an office of one before, authorizing over 40 charter schools, so she does know the meaning of limited staffing. Number 2, new to site visit process, getting systems ready for new site visits. I don't have the list handy. Who is the...
That would be me.
That's Rick.
Oh, that's Rick. Great. Rick will be facilitating that one. And then 3 is site visits for independent study or virtual schools. I will facilitate that. And then 4 is non-authorizers, site visit specific questions. And I believe Tom will facilitate that room for us. Okay, so we will put up the breakout rooms, and I believe you can self-select. Is that correct? Welcome back, everyone. Deidre, I'm not sure if I'm doing the review or you're doing the review.
I had for you doing this review.
Oh, that's great. I also forgot to do the whiteboard. We got right into our conversation, so I did not do my whiteboard either. Our topic was to speak about independent study or virtual schools and what site visits would look like with those. We kind of determined that that could be its own CASI training because independent study and virtual schools are its own entity, its own issue. And a lot of the site visit review that we do has to do with matching up the independent study policy with master agreements, and also reviewing work samples, reviewing P1, P2, attendance, and enrollment patterns to ensure that everything is matching and there aren't any red flags. So I think we all feel like we didn't quite have enough time to talk about everything. So we had a very lively conversation. Small staff, Deidre, did you want to talk about yours?
Yeah. So Michelle and I were both in the small staff room, and it was just a good general conversation about, how you handle things as a small or limited staff, and prioritizing, and, realizing that every year that you do this, the longer you do it, the easier and the more efficient and better at it you get. You find what works for you and kind of implement those strategies. And Michelle, did you want to add anything else?
I will say that the best advice that came out of our meeting was do something. Don't just do nothing. Do what you can do, and it's okay, because the law is so limited in what it provides that, remember, do something and just keep at it. Keep trying. It's okay. You're on the right track.
And for the new to site visit process, we kind of talked about establishing goals and working your processes to meet those goals for your site visits. And then somebody asked about different platforms. So we talked about different platforms like Dropbox and Epicenter, and the advantages and disadvantages of doing different platforms. And then we had a discussion on some questions that we ask for the staff, parents, and students, and how specific you get with the questions, and how we preview the what we're going to ask them for the site visit.
And Tom?
So our group, we lost some of our school side back office providers, so it ended up being just a consultant to consultant, sort of comparing notes, consultants to authorizers. And we had variations. We sort of had a combined version from a consulting standpoint of groups 1 and 2, helping the smallest clients with this process. Maybe they're new to it. And, we shared things like, if they've never done it before, like it was in the chat, but the CCAP toolkit has a model report, so you don't have to. It's in Word. You can make it your own. So you don't have to reinvent everything for a small district. And then, for us, if we have both been in situations where maybe the first site visit, it's really your consultant helping you organize it, and the district team is there participating, and ultimately they have to, finalize the report and that kind of thing. And maybe in the second year, it's half and half, and the third year they're sort of like, okay, we got this, thanks, but when can we call you on a question? So you're kind of, as a consultant, you're building the capacity with somebody who's new and small, but over time they're self-sufficient.
Right. So to piggyback off of Tom's comment, on the next slide, we have resources and tools. Please steal from everyone. Oversight best practices, a couple of times ago, the last CASI January 2025 training has lots of links to annual reports. So you can see some examples, oversight checklists and tools, and a lot of the CCAP, the California Charter Authorizing Professional toolkits as well for you to take a look at. All three of our websites, also San Diego Unified, Santa Clara County Office of Education, and also LA County, has great resources and some examples of site visit documents that we request. And also, as Michelle mentioned, she has a lot of templates on her website as well, or on the Santa Clara website as well. And you'll see a link in the chat. Please, please, please fill out the feedback. The meeting feedback survey helps us to know what you want to see next time. If you can move to the next slide, Joanne. I think we have the link in the chat, so go ahead and fill that out. Let us know how it went, what you want to see, what you need. Please complete our short after meeting survey to share your feedback and suggest hot topics for upcoming CASI events. And the upcoming events are, next slide, monthly CASI Charter Chats, July 30th, coming up soon. August 27th, mark your calendars, September 24th, October 29th, November 26th, and December 31st. We also have another CASI quarterly training, and that will be October 17th. From 9 to 11 as well. We are going to end on time. We're doing so good. That topic will be announced soon. And the next item is our CASI mentoring program. This is a kickoff of the mentoring program. We would like to get this started to help some of the smaller authorizers have a buddy to call, phone a friend, get some smaller authorizers or brand new authorizers the help and support that they need. Please use this QR code to fill out a brief survey to participate in our mentor program. Not sure if you want to participate? That's fine. Fill it out anyway. And then at the end in the notes say, I don't want to participate, but at least we'll know that you saw it and you don't want to participate. But the more people we have fill it out, the more we know what is out in the field and what you need and who you are. So please help us out and let us know that you're out there. And last but not least, I think Deidre's going to close us up.
I will, but before I do that, I just noticed that Joanne put in the chat a new link for that mentor survey. I think the original one was not working, so if you all want to grab that from the chat, it's in there, right? Yeah, Tiffany? Or not Tiffany, I'm sorry, Joanne? Okay, perfect, thank you. Okay, so that wraps up the quarterly training for what month are we in? July. As you can see, there's quite a bit of variety in the ways that you can structure and conduct your site visit. We would want to close with all of the LEAs who participated today are available as a resource to you. So please feel free to reach out to any of us. We are happy to engage with others and really excited about, getting into the mentorship program and some other options within CASI. So please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you so much for joining us today. That's it.